offing was barred by a black bank of clouds, and the tranquil waterway leading to the uttermost ends of the earth flowed somber under an overcast sky, seemed to lead into the heart of an immense darkness.
Controversy and wanks have followed poor Hayley Webb since she was cast as a possible love interest for Derek Hale. Personally, I wasn't particularly bothered, although I do hate the term love interest, because season 3 is usually when the powers that be decide that they need to inject some new blood. There wasn't really much to say about Miss Blake after the first episode, although she did show some potential. All we really know about her is that she likes Joseph Conrad and she knows how to send a mass text message. What everyone was really waiting for was for Miss Blake to finally meet Mr. Hale. And yes, you have to say it like that because their meeting was ripped directly from a historical romance novel. I mean, come on, you guys. Derek walks slow motion into the cage where Miss Blake sits cowering in the corner looking up at her saviour, who's like literally the most beautiful person in the entire world and somehow more attractive while covered in cuts and blood. He waltzes forward with this look of, "Please don't be afraid of me," and reaches out towards her and, I'm sorry, but if I was in that situation, my panties would already be gone. Yeah, it was cheesy, but Teen Wolf is cheesy. It was a little cheesier than I would have liked. Depending on where they take it, I'm willing to forgive and forget later. Yes, it was pretty cheesy, but I'm going to reserve the right to judge any possible romance, if that is indeed what is happening, until I've seen them actually interact with each other. But my incredibly long and not very thought out recap has caused a little bit of controversy. I've received a number of messages of people complaining about my treatment of Miss Blake. On one side, you got people complaining at me for not liking her enough. Saying that I'm a bit of Derek shipper, saying that I don't want Derek to have nice things, that I hate women. On the other side, there are people yelling at me for not shipping Derek enough and for accepting a two-dimensional character or accepting her as a romantic reward for Derek or just, pushing Derek into a relationship he's not ready for. Here's the thing, though. You're both wrong. I am firmly on Team Miss Blake. Yay, Miss Blake. Because I desperately want to like her. Now, that's partly my incessant need to find the good in every single female character out there. But it's also because if Derek's going to have a romance, I want it to be three-dimensional. I want it to be interesting. I want it to be exciting. And I want it to be worthy of this story. I'm full steam ahead with Jeff. I am trusting his instincts and I am trusting that he has a plan and it's not what we think it is. That said, I do understand the issue. I get why some people are upset. I've spoken to a number of fans about what it is about Miss Blake that makes them uncomfortable. And while there were a few people that were just shouting, "Yes, Derek, no, Derek" at me, most people actually had some legitimate concerns. At the moment, really all we know about her comes from speculation and spoilers, and most of that is about her potential as a love interest for Derek. That means that as far as we know now, her sole purpose could be to be romanced by Derek Hale, and that's not cool. Not to mention it's incredibly sad because I just don't think he's going to be very good at romancing. I'll admit it, this week's episode didn't exactly fill me with confidence about her character. I mean, who's at school that late at night? I mean, so far, both times we've seen her, she's been the victim. The first time with the birds and the second time with Cora and Boyd in the boiler room / stationery cupboard. Seriously though, who puts a stationery cupboard in a boiler room? That just doesn't even make sense. And then there was the massive cheese fest ending where Derek was the returning Harlequin hero that is clearly about to get laid. And if it turns out that that was the start of some kind of love at first sight, Allison and Scott inspired romance, then I'll actually vomit. Love at first sight is acceptable for teenagers. It is not acceptable for adults with trust issues. Actually, as Brooke said, Derek's so fucking jaded that he's going to have to be dragged, kicking and screaming into love. Trust me, if it turns out that Miss Blake's entire storyline revolves around Derek Hale's Mangst, I would be the first one picking up my pitchfork and marching on MTV. And if she dies for her troubles, especially after what happened to Erica, then I will find Jeff Davies and I will probably not punch him because clearly I'm not built for violence, but I will poke him until he understands the error of his ways. That said, I'm not worried, and here's why. Repeat after me, fandom. Derek and Miss Blake are not yet in a romantic relationship. I know we jump into these things head first and we see a glance and we think, oh yeah, that's totally happening, but it's not. Okay? We don't know anything. All we know is that they went through a life-threatening situation and looked at each other like they want to fuck, which is hardly unheard of. It makes sense. We've been fed the idea of these two together, you know, through all the conversation about Derek getting a love interest, with the idea that it could be Cora, but then they were family, and it could be, but then Hayley Webb was always mentioned, and all that kind of stuff. And we've just been force-fed into this idea that they're in a romantic relationship, and I just don't trust it. Not that I don't think they're heading that way. That scene in the supply closet / boiler room was about as subtle as a steamroller. But the fact remains that as of right now, they are not a couple. They don't even know each other, although my favorite theory going around at the moment is that they actually do know each other, which I think would make heaps of sense. And there are some other theories going around. Wonder Robbie gave me a few, which is, of course, the first one is that she dies because she deigns to have feelings for Derek. The other is that she's evil and either working with Deucalion or the unnamed mystery threat in Beacon Hills that is apparently going after the virgins. Yes, all signs point to romance at the moment, but you can't judge a relationship until you've actually seen them interact. I'm going to give Jeff the benefit of the doubt on account of most of the time he defies my expectations in regards to tropes. Except for Erica. Even though we don't know much about Miss Blake now, I believe that, you know, I have hope in my heart that she will become a three-dimensional character with her very own storyline that isn't entirely based around Derek. But come on, you guys, this is Derek. It doesn't matter who she turns out to be, it's gonna hurt. All we can hope is that her character is worthy of the pain she's about to inflict. Look, it's perfectly okay not to like Miss Blake. There's not a lot to like yet. But, on the other hand, there's not a lot to dislike. As my friend Kelly said, she's gorgeous and she's smart, and yes, chances are she's probably evil because Derek's got a type, but you never know. She could be, like, the best female character ever. And you know what else? It's okay to be upset because your ship's not happening. You know? Steric fans, like, you can't, don't be that guy that hates the girl just because she happened to get in the way of your slash ship, okay?